Modern culture is tearing the family unit apart. Bit by bit, day by day, and it's happening with distraction, it's happening with convenience, and with constant noise. And the worst part is that most parents won't even realize that it's happening before it's too late. They'll wake up one day, look across the dinner table, and see a stranger where their child used to be. Disconnected, disinterested, glazed eyes, shallow answers. More bonded to their phone than their own family. Now that's not accidental, that's engineered. And that's why you're here today, because deep down, you've seen it and you felt it too, just like me. And that's why I wanted to make this workshop. But let me start off by saying something very clear. If you don't protect your family culture, the world will destroy it for you. Now, if you don't know me, my name is Sebastian Bates. I'm the founder of the Warrior Academy, and I'm a father of 3. I'm a martial artist with 25 years, training in 6 different disciplines around the world and competing nationally and internationally. I'm someone who's worked with over 50,000 families in the last 15 years, and I've coached kids across 7 different countries. I've seen broken homes and warrior homes. I've seen what happens when kids are raised on purpose and what happens when they're raised by TikTok. I didn't build this perspective from theory, from books. I built it on the mats, in the dojos, from working with parents just like you every week. I built it in all the micro conversations that I had with struggling parents, in the trenches with parents. So this isn't some fluffy parenting podcast. I want this to be a wake-up call because the family unit is under attack. Not metaphorically, but literally. Everywhere you look, phones, influencers, AI tools, entertainment platforms, all designed to do one thing: pull your kids away from you. Pull their time, pull their focus, pull their trust, pull their identity. And while that's happening, what are we doing as parents? What are most parents doing? We're working overtime, we're worn down, we're stressed, we're scrolling on our own screens, trying to survive the week. And I get it, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. We're the first generation of parents dealing with this level of digital invasion. Our parents didn't have to compete with devices. We do. We're up against billion-dollar platforms built to hijack your children's dopamine, built to teach them values that we never signed off on, built to replace us quietly. Let me tell you something that shocked me. When I started coaching martial arts, parents were bringing their kids in for discipline, for confidence, for health, for some positive structure. But in the last 4 to 5 years, I've noticed this shifting. Now they come in, and they come in saying, my son doesn't listen to me anymore. My daughter's addicted to her phone. We don't talk like we used to. I feel like I'm losing them, and I don't know how to get it back. And that broke me as a mentor, an instructor, as a parent, because these aren't bad parents. They love their kids, but the world is moving faster than they are. And it's raising their kids while they, as parents, are distracted. Now that is a silent war that we're fighting. And if you're not prepared, you will lose. It's as simple as that. So, here's what I want to do with this workshop. I want to give you a map. I want to give you a framework that works in the real world, even in today's chaos. And it's something I call the core family culture. Now, this core family culture, we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of it all soon. But first, I need you to feel what's at stake. This is so important. Because until you truly see the war you're in as a parent, as a family, you won't value the armor I'm about to hand you. This is not a soft parenting conversation. This is about leadership at home. And make no mistake, if you don't lead, someone else will. This generation is being led by YouTube creators. Ironic, I know I'm on YouTube filming this, but Netflix creators, Netflix characters, algorithmic feeds, and peer groups more confused than they are. And if that's who's shaping your child's worldview, don't be surprised when they grow up disconnected from who they really are. Let's talk reality for a minute. In an average household, the family dinner is gone. Rituals are gone. Storytelling is gone. Sitting face to face without phones, gone. Instead, families now connect through text in the same house or short bursts of attention between screen time. It's not just bad habits, it's cultural decay. Masculine leadership is largely absent, not because fathers don't care, but because they've been told their role isn't needed anymore. And that's a lie. That is a dangerous lie. Fathers, dads, watching this, your presence, your calm, your standards are absolutely essential. Not to control your kids, but to anchor them. Mums watching this, your consistency, your intuition, your strength are the glue. Together between those two roles, you are the shield for your child. But not if you as parents are distracted, not if you're disconnected, and not if you're asleep at the wheel. So, here's what I know. Families can be rebuilt, connection can be restored, and values can be cemented even in a chaotic world. But it doesn't happen by accident. You need intention, you need consistency, you need a culture in your home that's stronger than what's outside of it. And that's what the core CORE system is all about. And we're going to dive into that next. But for now, take a little moment, look around your life. Do a little bit of introspection here. Look at your habits and be honest. Look at your family rhythm and ask yourself, honestly, are you building a warrior family or are you just surviving? What I'd love you to do is to drop a comment or an emoji in the comments if this is starting to hit home for you, if you can resonate with anything I've said up until this point in the workshop. And let me know if you felt the disconnection already creeping in, if it's something you've observed, because honestly, acknowledging it is that first key step. And before we go on, if you're finding this valuable, I'd love you to hit subscribe to this channel right now. This workshop is just getting started, and every week I'm going to drop another part to this workshop. But at the same time, if you click on the first comment, the pinned comment, you'll get access to the entire workshop in full if you're ready to watch the full workshop. What's going to come next? It's the roadmap back to connection. So let's hold the line together. When families break, kids break. It's that simple. And the devastating thing, and I don't say this to shock you, although it might shock you, I say it because I've seen it thousands of times in every country I've worked in, and I've worked in 7 different countries, different cultures, it's the same outcome. Disconnection at home creates cracks in a child's identity, and the world is all too eager to fill those cracks in this war of attention that we're in. Let's talk about what actually happens when the family unit begins to fall apart. And it's not physically, it's emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. It starts small. You get busy, they get older, schedules start to clash, screens slip in, and before you know it, the most important conversations are happening somewhere else. They're not asking you for advice. They're Googling it instead. They're not sharing their fears. They're strolling past dopamine distractions. They're not connected, they're coping. And it's easy to miss it at first. They seem fine, they seem functional, they're still polite, they're doing well in school, maybe. But the light's starting to dim behind their eyes and the posture starts to change a little bit. The passion starts to fade slightly. And when things go wrong, instead of coming to you, they retreat. So here's what I need you to hear very, very carefully. Disconnection doesn't always look dramatic. In fact, it rarely does. It's not always shouting. It's not always rebellion. Sometimes it's just silence. It's emotional distance. Sometimes it's surface level conversations and this wall between you that you can't really put a finger on, but gets thicker every single month. And most parents don't actually notice it until the damage is already done. I've had parents come to me in full-blown panic, and they'll say he just exploded out of nowhere. Or she used to talk to me, but now she just hides. They'll come to me and they'll say, I don't know who my child is anymore. But it's never out of nowhere. The reality here is the roots of disconnection run very, very deep, and they don't start from nowhere, they start from somewhere. They start with one thing, and that one thing is absence. And it's not just physical absence, it's emotional absence. Being there, but not really there. Basically, it comes from when you're distracted, when you're overworked, when you're overwhelmed. And again, this isn't to shame you as a parent at all. Modern life is insane. Parents are under more pressure than ever. But pressure doesn't excuse inaction. So what's the actual impact here? Well, what actually happens to kids when connection dies at home, let me show you what I see every week to give you some clarity. Anxiety, because they don't feel safe to process life out loud. Anger, because they don't have healthy outlets or boundaries. Addiction, because phones are gaming and the only thing that makes them feel something. It's that dopamine hit, and it's the quickest route to a dopamine hit they are being addicted to. Approval seeking, because they're not sure who they are without external validation. Fear of failure, because they never had someone walk with them through difficulty, only correct them afterwards. And most dangerous of all, identity confusion. They don't know what they stand for, what matters, what's real, because nobody showed them. When a family stops leading with connection, kids start looking outside for clarity. And that's when they attach to online influences. That's when peer groups become their moral compass. And that's when trends define them, not truth. And that's when the parent's voice, which is so important to guide them, to guide their moral compass, goes into the background. And it's not because you stop speaking, but it's actually because your words no longer land. Because connection, real connection, is the currency of influence. And once it's gone, you can't buy it back with lectures. I've had teenagers sit in front of me at the Warrior Academy, and they're polite, they're strong, and they're smart, but they're empty. They've got no sense of who they are, no direction, they've got no grit. And when I dig in, the pattern is always the same. There's no real structure at home. There's no shared family values. They don't know what it means to have their surname. There's no consistent discipline. There's no culture. It's just survival. Parents surviving their work week, kids surviving their emotional chaos. Nobody thriving, everybody surviving. And that is the silent epidemic. We've got this issue where we wonder why kids are crumbling under pressure, why mental health is at an all-time low, why suicide rates are rising, why resilience is disappearing, and why we are raising the most anxious generation ever. And it's because the home stopped being an anchor. And once that anchor's gone, kids start to drift. Imagine this. A child walks out into the world with no clear identity, no guiding values, no family rhythm to return to. That's not freedom. That is abandonment. And the world is loud. The world is fast. The world is brutal. It will tell your child who they are if you don't. And it will lie to them about what matters, about what love is, about what strength looks like, and about what's true. So I want to say this again. When families break, kids break. And it's not always public, it's not always immediately, but it's always eventually, unless you intervene. So here is my question for you as a parent watching this. When was the last time you had a deep conversation with your child? When no one was rushing, no one was distracted or trying to fix something. When was the last time you asked them a question and just listened? When was the last time they chose you over their phone? If you're feeling the sting of those questions, please don't panic. You've got this far, you're listening to this workshop, it's not too late. That's what this workshop is actually for. It's to help you rebuild what you're noticing is slipping away, to bring back rhythm to the family, to bring back your core values, to bring back trust, and to start anchoring your child's identity in something stronger than the culture outside your home, the culture online, or the next fad or influencer's culture. Before we move on, I really want you to do two things for me. First thing I want you to do is to comment below with the word rebuild if you're ready to take your connection deeper, no matter how old your kids are. And the next thing I want you to do is to subscribe if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, because the next part of this framework will give you the exact tools to start that rebuild straight away. This isn't about being perfect, it's about being present consistently, intentionally, daily, because once that connection is strong again, everything else gets easier. So, I will see you in part 3. Let's get something straight. I don't need to quote statistics about family breakdowns. I don't need to Google trends on teen anxiety, depression, or addiction. You can do all that and you'll get to the same resolution as me. The reason I don't need to do that is because I've lived it. I've seen it with my own eyes for over 15 years with thousands of families, tens of thousands of kids across 7 different countries, every background, every belief system, every income level. Now, when you go through that experience, you start to notice patterns. And when you've worked closely, and you've worked that closely with families for that long, and I'll tell you right now, the strongest kids, the most resilient ones, the ones who know who they are the ones who bounce back from failure, who lead their peers instead of following them. And they don't come from perfect homes. That is the key. They come from intentional homes. Homes that operate with culture, with rhythm, with values that are lived, not just spoken. The bottom line here, and what I've really noticed, is that none of this is actually magic, and it's not luck. It's actually design. It's intentional design. And it's the same that is true in reverse. The most anxious, disconnected, and emotionally fragile kids, in my experience, come from homes where the culture is reactive, where it's inconsistent, where it's unanchored, where values tend to be talked about, but not actually modeled. Parents may say this is what we do, but they don't reflect that in real life. In these homes, you'll often find there is love, but there is no leadership. And that's a hard pill to swallow. They might have correction, but no connection. And that's the honest truth. So let me tell you what I see weekly in the Warrior Academy, and you can see if this resonates for you too. We've got kids from every walk of life, from confident leaders to barely speaking introverts, from kids on the spectrum to kids who have faced bullying, trauma, ADHD, or total self-doubt all their lives. And every week, we watch them grow. We watch them find courage. We watch them lean into challenge, and we watch their posture change, their tone shift, their belief rise. Why? Because we're not just teaching them martial arts. We're shaping character through culture. We reinforce the same values every day. We use repetition, responsibility, reflection. We honor effort, not perfection. We create an environment where identity is forged, and every week, without fail, we hear from parents, he's standing taller, she's more respectful, we're connecting more at home. And that's not just this academy's influence, that is the power of alignment. When the values at home match the values in training, something clicks. And that's what I want you to take away from this. Because here's the truth most people won't say out loud. Your home is already a training ground for your child, whether you realize it or not. Every day, in every moment, through every tone, habit, reaction, and routine. The only question is, what are you training them for? Are you training them to seek comfort, or to chase challenge, to avoid hard things, or to lean into growth, to blend in with the crowd, or to lead with courage? And so what's the impact? What actually happens to kids when connection dies at home? Let me show you what I see every week. Anxiety because they don't feel safe to process life out loud. Anger because they don't have healthy outlets or boundaries. Addiction because phones and gaming are the one thing that make them feel something. Approval seeking because they're not sure who they are without external validation. Fear of failure because they've never had someone walk with them through difficulty, only actually correct them afterwards. And just in case you think I'm exaggerating about this damage, let me hit you with this. A few stats. In the UK, 1 in 6 children aged 7 to 16 has a diagnosable mental health condition. 1 in 6. That's not a few kids slipping through cracks. That's a cultural collapse. Since 2017, rates of anxiety and depression in teens have risen by 60%. Not because they're weak, because they're overwhelmed and under-anchored. And according to recent studies, 90% of young people believe social media is hurting their mental health. They know it's making them anxious, but they're addicted. If you knew something was damaging your mental health, but you didn't stop, the only reason for that is addiction. Now, they carry on because it's the only place they feel connected. Let all of that sink in. We've essentially created a world where kids feel lonelier than never before while being constantly connected. It's connection without any depth. It's attention without affection. Basically, the result we've got here is that they don't feel safe. They feel like they're not seen. They don't feel led. And the most dangerous thing of all is this identity confusion. They don't know what they stand for. They don't know what matters. They don't know what's real because nobody's ever showed them. When a family stops leading with connection, kids start looking outside for clarity. And that's when they attach to online influences. That's when peer groups become their moral compass. And that's when trends define them, not the actual truth of who they are. That's when the parent's voice, your voice, goes silent. And it's not because you stop speaking to them, but because your words no longer land in their minds, because they see you as correction rather than you actually connecting with them. And really, connection is the currency of an influence. Once that's gone, you can't buy it back with lectures. So here's my question for you. What is the culture of your home right now? If you're a parent watching this, maybe you've got a successful career or a business, and you're aware how important the values are in the workplace within your team. It's probably been highlighted to you what your workplace cultures are. Maybe there are 3 core values. And those core values are really important because they guide the team's decisions. But if I asked you what your 3 core values for your family are, you wouldn't be able to tell me, I'm sure. It wouldn't be something your family all know. Your kids know, your wife knows, your husband knows, whatever it is. We don't have solidified core values. We haven't got a solidified core culture in so many of our homes. And this is a really key insight. If someone walked in and observed your home for a week, they didn't have any explanations, no justifications, what do you think they would say are your family values? Be completely honest and write them down. Maybe even put them in the comments below in this video. It's not to beat yourself up. If you're struggling to find those values, this should be a bit of a wake-up call instead. Because just like we have in the academy, small, consistent shifts lead to massive transformations over time. That's what we see. Before we go on, I want you to do this. I want you to comment with, I'm building on purpose. Comment that in the comments of this video, because if you're connecting with this already, I want to know. I want to know who's in this with me or who's ready to raise kids on purpose, not by accident. And if you're enjoying this and you're resonating with this, hit subscribe if you haven't done so already. Hit notifications, hit the bell so you get the next section, the next part, or access to more videos just like this so I can help support you and your family. We're now going to move from the problem I've been talking about. We've established what's gone wrong, and now I want to help you with the plan, what we're going to do to help you and get through this challenging environment that we're in. I'm going to show you exactly what does build your family culture. Let's build your core. Strong kids don't come from luck, they come from culture. Let's flip the script. We've talked about the problem, so you're aware of that. It's disconnection, it's emotional drift, it's silent damage. Now let's talk about solutions, because here's the truth. Strong kids don't come from luck. They come from culture, family culture, your culture. Every grounded, resilient, high character child I've ever worked with came from a home that lived by something intentional, a rhythm, a standard, a way of operating that shaped who they were daily. It wasn't through a lecture or a sticker chart. It's their culture. It's the culture of the family. And I want to give you that today, a framework that any parent can use, regardless of background, of income, of education, or how chaotic life feels right now. It's simple, it's powerful, and it works. I call it CORE, C-O-R-E. Now, these 4 pillars form the foundation of a warrior family, what we refer to as a warrior family. They're how we raise kids who don't crumble under pressure, who don't outsource their identity to TikTok, and who know who they are and what they stand for, and how to face hard things. And more than that, it's how they take back leadership at home. Because your family doesn't need another chore chart. They need a culture that holds them when the world tries to pull them apart from each other. So let's break it down. First step is connection. The C is connection. Connection before correction. Now, most parents lead with lectures, let's be honest. They think the louder they talk, the more their kids will listen. But here's the truth. If your child doesn't feel connected to you, they'll tune you out, no matter how wise or right you think you are, or you may be. I've worked with thousands of parents who were doing everything by the book, but their kids wouldn't even open up to them. They wouldn't listen, and they wouldn't change. Why is that? It's because there was no relationship to begin with, only rules in place, only correction. And I tell parents this all the time. Connection is the runway for correction to land. You want to correct your child when they make mistakes, but without connection, there's no influence. Connection is built in the small moments. No agenda, no screens. It's just presence that you have with your child. So, for me, when I walk my son in the mornings before school for 20 minutes, he holds my hand. He's only young. But every single morning we do it, rain or shine. And it's not about the destination. It's about the conversation. With my daughter, I notice at times she can feel overwhelmed or emotional. Instead of trying to find the problem to solve with her, I will sit with her. And sometimes she cries. We don't need to have a conversation about it. She knows that I'm there. And gradually she rests her head on my shoulder and she feels heard. She feels seen. And for me, that's masculine leadership. It's not dominating the storm, it's anchoring it. The next step is ownership. Ownership of values. Here's a mistake most families make. They talk about the values that they might want to have, but they don't actually live them. And kids spot that from a mile away. You say health matters, make sure you eat your greens, or you should be doing sport, or whatever it is, you should use your body, but then you don't do it yourself. You say respect matters, but you snap at your spouse. You say honesty matters, but they hear you lie on a phone call. Your values don't transfer through words, they transfer through example. And this is where most parenting advice misses the mark. Kids don't listen to what you say, they become who you are. That's the harsh reality. If you want your kids to be resilient, show them how you handle pressure. If you want them to lead, model responsibility at home. And if you want them to be kind, let them see how you treat other people behind closed doors. Don't perform for them. Be real with them, because nothing builds trust faster than integrity. The next step is R, repetition builds identity. This is the underrated superpower of family culture. It's rituals, it's routine, it's repetition. This is how kids figure out who they actually are. Not through one emotional conversation and not through a motivational video, but through daily reps. The same way we build muscle on the mat, the same way we build habits in business, the same way we build identity in our kids, one rep at a time. Now, at home, that might look like Friday night, movie night, and pizza, no phones allowed. Sunday morning, walks, just one-on-one time with your kids. A monthly adventure, days where you try something brand new together that pushes you as a family outside of your comfort zone. It could look like bedtime questions. What did you enjoy today? Or what did you do today that was brave? Now, these rituals don't need to be flashy. They just need to be consistent. That's the main thing, consistency. These rituals become the scaffolding of your child's self-image because repetition is how you teach them. This is who we are. The final step is E, exposure. Exposure builds resilience. This one is huge, and it's why it's the last step. Most parents today are terrified of their child experiencing discomfort. They want to shield, they want to bubble wrap, they want to protect. And I get it. All of that comes from love, but protection without exposure leads to weakness. If you want strong kids, you need to let them feel challenged. You need to let them climb. You need to let them fall. You need to let them fail. And you need to let them get back up on their own. Because every time they face fear and survive it, it rewires their identity. At home, we say, in my family, we do hard things. And it's not because we're obsessed with toughness. It's because we know that life is challenging. Life is not soft. We know that life is not fair. It's not filtered. If you raise your kids in a fantasy, the real world is going to break them when they reach adulthood. It's going to hit them with full force. But if you raise them in a reality with support, structure, and challenge, your kids will be unshakable. So let them struggle. Be nearby. Be the anchor. But don't rob them of the pain that makes them strong in the first place. That is the core system. It's simple, it's powerful, and it works if you live it. So let's recap that whole core system very briefly. CORE, connection before correction, ownership of values, repetition builds identity, and exposure builds resilience. This is how warrior families are built in the modern day. And it's not through a fancy app, it's not through perfect parenting, but through daily habits that shape your family's culture. It is the difference between raising kids who adapt to chaos and kids who anchor in character. The final truth I want to share with you before we move on to the next part is this. If you don't create a family culture, the world will create one for you, and it won't be one that you like. Now, I want to know which of these 4 core areas do you feel you need to focus on first? Put it in the comment below with one letter, CORE, whatever it is, and let me know where you're starting from. If you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel. Make sure you subscribe now. Click the subscribe button and the bell, the notifications, so that you do get future videos where I can support you and your family. I'm going to be breaking down the pillars now, CORE, in the next 4 parts. So let's go through this step by step, age by age, real world examples, so we can live this out, starting today. This is how we're going to win back your influence as a parent at home, and how you're going to raise grounded, resilient kids in a completely distracted world. Let's build your family's core together. See you in the next part. You can't lead a child who doesn't feel safe with you. It's as simple as that. Let me say something that might rattle a few cages, but is important. If your child doesn't feel connected to you, then they won't listen to you. Not fully, not deeply, and not when it matters most to them and to you. And really, that's why the first pillar of the core system is connection before correction. Because the truth is this, most parents are leading with the wrong energy. They lead with rules, they lead with lectures, and with consequence-first parenting, not realizing that they're trying to shape behavior without first earning influence. And here's the really painful truth. Without connection, correction just feels like rejection. Let that sink. Without connection, correction feels to your child like rejection. Your intentions as a parent might be good, but if the emotional bond isn't there yet, your discipline won't actually land. It will just feel like you're trying to control them. And when kids feel controlled, what do? They pull away, they hide, they rebel, they shut down. I've seen this 1,000 times with parents who tell me that their child is defiant or won't listen or won't open up, that they're always glued to a screen, that they're always giving attitude. And so I asked them a few questions. When was the last time you spent one-on-one time with them? No phones, no distractions. When was the last time you laughed together? And I mean really laughed. When was the last time you listened without correcting? And most of the time, parents can't actually remember because the relationship's been stuck in correction mode for months, maybe years. And that's where the damage is actually starting, in that correction mode. So, connection before correction is not about being soft. It's not about letting kids run wild. It's not extreme, gentle parenting. It's about restoring trust so that when you do set boundaries with your child, they actually land. So that when you do call them higher, they hear you. Here's what it looks like in my house. Every weekday, I walk with my son for 20 minutes. Rain or shine, whatever, hand in hand, no phone, no agenda. Sometimes we talk, sometimes we don't talk. Sometimes he doesn't want to go on the walk. Sometimes he's angry that he's walking. But I just walk with him anyway. And within a few minutes, he starts to open up. He starts telling me random things that he's looking forward to. Sometimes he talks to me about a Minecraft book that he's reading, or a book about sharks that he's fascinated by, or he tells me interesting facts about nature or science. And I do this with him every single day. That walk has become our connection ritual. It's how he knows physically I'm there, that I see him and I value his world. It's not this one-off big moment. Instead, it's this consistent moment. And when I do need to challenge him, when I do need to correct something, he actually listens. And it's not because I'm shouting louder, but because the relationship is stronger. My opportunity to correct him on something, to guide him, to mentor him, sometimes comes at the end of that 20-minute walk. And I've got a son with ADHD. So with him, it's very challenging for him to regulate his emotions, to regulate his nervous system. And he learns that by copying me. So those first 20 minutes in the day are a chance for him to bond with me, to regulate his nervous system based on my nervous system, and to set himself up peacefully for the day. And what we've noticed is a massive change, a shift in his schooling because of that. Now, this is no different with my daughter. If she feels emotional, if she feels something really deeply, when she's particularly upset, I don't try to fix something straight away with her. I don't jump in with advice or correct it or try and bring logic. I just sit with her. And sometimes I'll just sit with her in complete silence because that stillness is that safe presence that I think a parent really needs with their child. And I think it says more than words ever could. For me, as a father, masculine leadership isn't always loud and abrupt and correcting. It's not about dominating the moment or having control. It's more about anchoring it. Sometimes your child is a storm, and they don't need you to be the thunder adding to it. They need you to be the ground. And that's one of the key roles, I think, a father's got in a home. It's to set the nervous system for the family, to help regulate the nervous system. And I see so many dads being emotionally reactive and actually doing the opposite. And what that does, in my opinion, is it makes the whole family feel like they're on the edge of their seat. When you have an emotionally reactive father at home, everyone feels uneasy. But when you've got a father who has regulation, emotional regulation, who's calm, who's centered, who's grounded, the whole family feels safer, they feel more at peace, and they actually have more trust in the direction of the family. All of that is key when it comes to developing your family culture. So what I'd like to do now is get quite practical. If you want to build real connection with your child, I want to give you 5 habits that work. They're very, very simple, but they're very powerful. First one is one-on-one time every single week. Nothing fancy, go for a walk, grab an ice cream, play a game, no phones, no teaching moments, just presence. Number 2, daily check-in. At bedtime or dinner, ask them, what's one good thing that happened today? What was really hard today? What are you really proud of today? Don't go in with the, what did you learn at school today, classic line that parents ask, because they're not interested in telling you that. Instead, try to meet them where they're at. Did anything funny happen today at school? Or even tell them and share with them something you did that was funny today, which they might find humor in. What we're trying to do here is to encourage them through simple questions to build emotional literacy. Next up, number 3 is touch. Physical affection isn't just for toddlers. A hug, a hand on the shoulder, these sorts of things actually ground your child. It reminds them you are here. Number 4 is eye contact. When they speak, look up or put the phone down. It seems small, but it builds trust faster than anything else. Make sure you are giving them eye contact. You are giving them your full presence. And that's so difficult to do, but if you want them off their phone in the future, you've got to give them presence without the phone in your hand. It's challenging, but it's important. Number 5 is laughter. Humor is really powerful. Laugh together, be silly, create joy. It makes discipline easier when it's eventually needed. Because joy has already had this process of bonding you both together. Now let me speak directly to the dads for a second. And I do this often as a dad. I can relate to you, and hopefully you can relate to me, and we've got a very similar journey, I'm sure. If you think your job as a dad is just to provide for your family, you're missing the point. Your presence is your greatest provision. Kids don't need a perfect dad. They need a present dad, one who's calm, one who shows up, and one who really leads with consistency, not just correction. I've worked with too many boys who crave that presence, and too many girls who search for that strength in the wrong places when they don't get it at home. Your connection as a father will set the tone for the entire family. So why does this matter? Because the moment your child feels safe with you again, everything shifts. You go from being a threat to being a leader. You go from being turned out to being turned into. Connection isn't this nice to have. It's the foundation of influence. No connection, no character development. And you know what's wild? One of the toughest kids I've ever worked with, the ones who would label themselves or were labeled by others as problems and then eventually labeled themselves as problems, actually turned into absolute leaders once we reconnected them with their families. Why is that? It's because underneath all of the behavior was a kid starving to be seen. You don't fix that with more punishment. You fix it with more presence. You want to improve your child's behavior? Have a good reflection on how much presence and time you're spending with them. None of this is about being a perfect parent. I want to make that super clear. Your kids don't need perfection. You are going to mess this up. I mess it up. All parents do. That is normal. And what you'll notice is the shift starts happening. My challenge to you this week, pick one of the rituals that I spoke about when it comes to connection and do it. Just one. It could be the daily walk. It could be screen-free dinner. Whatever it is. It could be the 5 minutes at bedtime with your phone on airplane mode. Whatever it is, lock it in and protect it. And then watch what happens after 1 week. Now, before we wrap up this part, I want you to do 2 things for me. First of all, I want you to comment, "I'm rebuilding connection," below, if you're committing to one new connection habit this week. Then I want to know who's stepping up in the comments so I can help support you and I can reply to you. I reply to every single comment. Next, number 2, if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please subscribe to the channel. I want to support more parents on my mission to solidify a powerful family culture in this challenging modern world. And when you subscribe, more parents will hear about it and you'll get access to even more content for free, just like this. Right, next up, in the next part, we are going to be moving into the O of the core system, which is ownership of values. You don't want to miss this part at all, because it's where we show you how to actually transfer values into your kids without just talking about them. This next part is how we lead at home. One connection, one correction, one moment at a time. So let's keep going and I'll see you there. If you don't live your values, your kids won't either. Right, let's cut the fluff here as we enter this new part of the workshop. If you don't live your values, your kids won't either. It's as simple as that. You can say all the right things, you can quote every motivational book, you can post about family values on Instagram, but if your child doesn't see it in your life, they won't take it seriously. And that is why the O in the core system stands for ownership of values, because your words don't raise them. It's your example that will raise them. Let me ask you this very plainly. What values are you trying to pass on to your child? Is it respect? Is it discipline? Is it resilience? Is it courage? Is it kindness? Now, all of these are great values to have, but here's the big question. Where do they see you living that? Because if they don't see it, they won't actually believe it. So a quick exercise you can do right now is write down the 5 core values you want your child to embody as part of your family values. Then next to it, write down where they see it. Not where you live it yourself, but where they actually see you live it next to it. And see where things link up. If they don't see it, they won't believe it. Kids don't inherit values through things like lectures and correction. They absorb them through lived experience. And that's what experience starts with. It starts with you. Let me tell you what I see all the time in my work with families around the world. A parent will say to me, I don't know why my son is lazy, or I don't know why my daughter is always talking back to me. They will say things like, I don't know why my child doesn't take responsibility. And I'll then ask, what do they see you doing when life gets difficult for you? How do you speak to your partner, your wife or husband, when you're frustrated? Do you follow through on the things you say? And that's usually when it clicks for a parent. Now, I don't expect an answer when I ask these things. I'm just trying to highlight the process in which their child is learning objectively. Their child is looking at their parent in those moments to learn how they need to live in those moments themselves. Kids don't copy what you say. They copy who you are and what you are. So here's the part that can often sting a little bit for parents, but ultimately it's freeing and it's the only way forward. If you want your child to live your values, you have to be willing to live them first. What does that mean? It means that if health is one of your core values, they need to see you train. They need to see you eat healthily and make obvious decisions around that in front of them. If discipline matters, they need to see your morning routine. They need to see you doing hard things every day. If kindness matters, they need to see how you treat everyone else, not just them. If courage matters, they need to watch you do hard things and not avoid them. So, you're essentially, the way I like to see it, is you are the living syllabus of their belief system. They're not listening to your words. What they're doing is they're studying your life. So let me give you an example from my own home of one of our family values that we try to cement. One of our family values is discipline. It's not punishment, it's discipline. Discipline to do the things you said you were going to do, even when it feels inconvenient or it's uncomfortable. So when I train early in the morning, my kids know I'm not doing it for a six-pack, I'm doing it because we live by that rule. We do hard things. And sometimes I'll say to my kids in the morning, I'm really tired. I don't want to go out on this walk or this run. I don't really feel like going to the gym. And they'll say to me, oh, you don't need to, you can stay at home. And I'll say to him, no, because in this family, we do hard things. There it is. That is the exact moment in which you pass on that core value to your child. You don't hide them from the reality, but you use it as a light bulb moment to shape their values system. When they see me out there in the home gym or doing something challenging, sweating and moving and pushing through tiredness and fatigue, that's really key. They don't need to see a TED talk on motivation. What they're watching is the value that I want them to have themselves and embody in action. And here's what essentially happens. When they see that, they internalize it. It becomes normal. Effort then isn't a punishment anymore. It's actually part of our family culture. And here's the trap so many families fall into. They talk about values instead of actually living them proactively. They bring up respect when someone's being disrespectful. They talk about honesty after a lie. They mention courage when someone's being timid. But values aren't just damage control. Values are the blueprint for who we are as humans and who we're becoming. So your child needs to understand that these values need to show up before the problem. They need to show up in daily life, in conversations, in rhythm. That's how values work. So how do you actually live out your values in your home? Here's a really simple framework that I use with hundreds of families who are trying to shape this core part of their family culture. The first thing is you define your top 3 values. Don't overthink it. Just pick 3 things that actually matter to you and that you want to see in your kids. Maybe it's respect, courage, and consistency, or truth, kindness, and grit. Now, choose what's real, not what just sounds impressive. Because here's the key. I want you to define what they will look like in action. What do those values actually look like in real life? Well, respect could mean we don't interrupt. Okay. Courage means we speak up even when it's hard. Grit means we finish something we've started. Give it a shape, make it visible. That's the key thing here. The next step, number 2, is to live them daily and visibly. You don't have to say, I'm being courageous now, but make your habits observable. Let your kids catch you in discipline and let them overhear you making the hard choice. Let them see you speak with honor, even when you feel tired yourself. Be intentional about making your values loud through your actions, not just through your words. Number 3 is to talk about them in reflection. So this is key. At the end of the day, bring it up. What did you do today that was kind? What did you show that was courageous? What challenged you, and how did you respond to that challenge? Now, these questions don't just build conversation, they actually build and shape your child's identity. They help your child see themselves through the lens of your family values. And over time, they start to lead with them on their own. I remember we had one student here at the Warrior Academy, and this student, the parents would say that this student used to lie constantly. They were a great kid, but they couldn't tell the truth. He couldn't tell the truth to save his life, basically. His parents started to get quite frustrated, and they kept calling him out. They were punishing him, they were grounding him, nothing worked. So we decided to go a slightly different route as we were mentoring this child working with the parents. And we stopped punishing the lie and started highlighting instead honesty. Every time he told the truth, especially when it was hard, we praised it, we reinforced it. We made a really big deal out of him telling the truth. And his parents did the same thing at home. They started modeling honesty too. So they started owning their own mistakes out loud, loudly in front of them. They started saying things like, I was wrong, and apologizing when they snapped. And guess what? This little boy changed, not because of punishment, which was happening before, but because of the value that became real in his home. He didn't just hear it, he saw it and he felt it and he lived it. That is a perfect example of what ownership of values looks like. You don't outsource this to teachers. You don't delegate it to apps. You live it visibly, daily, consistently. Because if your kids don't learn values at home, they'll pick them up from somewhere else. And it might not be the values you'd choose as parents for them. Now, here's the best part about all of this. You don't need to be perfect. Kids don't need perfect parents. They need authentic parents. When they see you fail, apologize, try again, and what that would do is it would teach them more than any quote on any wall, any motivational speech would ever do. They're seeing it in action. They're seeing that value in action. So start small. Pick one value. Model that one value this week. Talk about it, reflect on it, and watch what starts to shift in your family. So, before we wrap this part up, let me ask you, what's one value that you want to make louder in your home? And drop it in the comments. Just one word. And what I'd love to do is to build up a list of values right here together underneath this video. And finally, if you haven't subscribed yet to this video, make sure you do so you don't miss the next videos, the next parts that are going to be coming to you. Because next, we're going to be hitting R. Repetition builds identity. That's step 3 of the core value system. This one's really powerful because basically it's where everything gets anchored. We're over halfway now through the workshop, through the core method. So let's keep building and I'll see you there. Character isn't built in big speeches, it's built in boring consistency. The stuff no one sees, the stuff that doesn't make it to Instagram, the stuff that feels too simple to actually matter. But it's that simplicity done over and over again that shapes identity. And that's why the R in the core system stands for repetition, because repetition builds identity. One-off parenting moments don't shape who your child becomes. Rituals shape who your child becomes. Rhythm, repetition, these are the things that shape who your child becomes. It's determined by what they repeatedly experience, not one-off big events. If we went a level deeper, think about how confidence is actually built in a person, in a young person. It's not a single event, but it's hundreds of micro moments over time, trying, failing, getting back up, being seen, being safe. It's the same with courage. It's the same with responsibility. It's the same with discipline. None of these things are formed in a flash. They're forged in the everyday. And that's the power of repetition, because it rewires their brain, it builds their habits, and it forms their identity. Here's the thing. I've worked with thousands of kids, from anxious 5-year-olds to overconfident teenagers, and the truth holds across the board. The ones who thrive the most are the ones who live in families with rhythm. They know what to expect, and they know what their family stands for. These are the families that have rituals, that reinforce connection, that reinforce values and trust. It's not rigid, it's reliable. And in a chaotic world, that reliability becomes their anchor. So let me give you a really quick example. There's one family I've worked with for years. They've got 4 kids, 2 teens and 2 younger kids. It's a madhouse, as the dad would describe it. But as you walk into their home, and I've done some personal training and one-on-one stuff with them, and you feel this too, straight away, you walk in and you notice there's calm, solid energy. It's not just because they're perfect parents, they're great parents. It's because they've built rituals into the fabric of their family. Friday night is movie night, always. Phones go to basket, popcorn, blankets, same time every week. Sunday mornings are reflection. No tech, just a long walk outside. Gratitude, questions, future talk. Every month, they do a family challenge day. That could be a hike. It could be jumping in the cold sea, a public speaking game where they share something each. Something a little bit uncomfortable that they all do and they're all uncomfortable with, and they do it on purpose. Picture that family and picture the impact of those routines. Now picture this. Every day at dinner, they ask the same 3 questions. What did you do that was brave today? What did you do that was kind? And what's one thing you learned? Those questions have become part of their language as a family. Their kids finish each other's sentences when they say these mantras. Their values are repeated until they're completely embedded. It's identity by design. It's not identity accidentally. Now, if I was going to ask you this, what would your answer be? And write it in the comments. What rhythms are you shaping in your home right now? Not what rhythms are you hoping to shape, but what actually happens. Are the values that you care most about being repeated daily, weekly, or monthly? Or are they being drowned out by busyness, distraction, and inconsistency? Now, here's the reality. I'm not trying to give you a guilt trip, but this is a mirror. Because if you want your kids to know who they are, they need a consistent environment to discover it. And if I was being really practical, parents need steps to actually achieve this. So what I'd like to do is give you 5 steps. If I can give you 5 sample rituals that you can start this week that would shift the atmosphere in your home, I think that would be a really powerful step for you on this stage. So let's begin. The first step would be a daily connection ritual. Pick a time, morning coffee, whatever it is, a bedtime chat, 5 minutes, no phone, connections, no agenda, just presence. That will become the anchor of emotional safety for your children every day. Number 2, a weekly tradition. Find a weekly tradition for your kids. It could be Friday pizza night, Sunday walks, or Saturday cleaning up the house with loud music on. Something that's repeatable, and make it really visible. Kids really crave routine and visibility of that routine more than they actually let on. The next thing, number 3, would be the monthly challenge. Expose them to discomfort. Try something hard together that you find uncomfortable too. Try to track the progress, celebrate the effort, and build courage together. We're trying to focus on resilience here, group resilience and individual resilience. And what you'll notice is they'll start to see challenging themselves as normal. Number 4 is shared language. Mantras can be really powerful. Be specific with your mantras. Keep them simple. We do hard things. We speak the truth. We go together. Say them until they become part of the air that they breathe. This is a normal part of our family's language. Number 5 is a quarterly reset. Take one weekend every 3 months to disconnect from devices entirely. Reflect, review goals, and realign the family vision. It doesn't have to be fancy, just intentional. Now, these rituals aren't extra. They're essential, because in a world where everything is changing fast, repetition is how your child finds who they actually are. It gives them a stable platform to launch from. It builds trust, it forms habits, and it creates memories that reinforce identity. And let's be clear, this isn't about being perfect. You are going to miss days. You're going to mess up, and that's completely fine. Consistency isn't perfection. Consistency is commitment. It's you showing up. It's you keeping the rituals going, even when you're a little bit stressed or tired, and even when you have a day where you miss them. It's you reinforcing the values, even when it feels repetitive, especially when it feels repetitive. Because that's the whole point. It's not what we say once, it's what we say again and again that forms who they become. Let me say something now that I remind every parent whenever I speak to them about this sort of stuff. Culture is built by repetition. And if you're not repeating what matters, something else is. And nowadays, that's an algorithm, that's an app, that's a peer group. It could be a celebrity voice on their phone. Something is getting repeated in your child's life. The only question is it coming from you and your core values or not? That's why repetition is not boring. It's one of the most powerful tools you have as a parent. And when you use it with intention, you don't just raise a kid who knows the rules, you raise a young person who knows who they are. So, here's your challenge for this week. Pick one ritual, just one, and repeat it. Make it non-negotiable. Tell your family and lock it in. And here's the twist. Don't look for instant results. All you want to look for is consistency, because results will come. Now, do me a quick favor before we move on to the next part. In the comments, write ritual locked if you're committing to one weekly or daily rhythm in your home. It doesn't matter how small, just commit to the repeat. And make sure you subscribe if you haven't done yet, because next up, I'm gonna dive into exposure. Exposure builds resilience. This is the final step of the core methodology for developing your family's culture in a chaotic modern world. The next part is a really big one. It's a really important one. We're almost through. Let's keep building. I will see you there. If you keep protecting your kids from life, then life will break them later on. Here's the reality. And I don't say this to scare you as a parent, I say it because I've seen it over and over again. Kids who have never faced challenges, kids who have been bubble wrapped since birth, and kids who've never had to fail, fall, or fight through anything, often grow up thinking the world will bend to them. And when it doesn't, when they're an adult, they collapse. And that's why E of the core system is exposure. Exposure builds resilience. Courage isn't something you can teach a child with words. Courage is something you train through experience. So let's be really honest here. And maybe you can relate to this, do you feel that we live in a culture obsessed with comfort? I do. I think we live in a culture that's obsessed with soft talk, soft expectations. Discomfort is often seen as dangerous. We've given pressure a bad rep. Challenge is framed as trauma, and struggle is viewed as failure. But the truth is, your child's strength is on the other side of struggle. And if they don't experience struggle in a safe, guided way with you beside them, they'll actually experience it in a brutal, unsupervised way when they leave you. I want you to think of resilience like a muscle. You don't build it by reading about squats. You build it by lifting weights consistently with the same courage, with the same confidence, with the same discipline. And these traits aren't downloaded, they're developed through exposure. It's as simple as that. So let me give you a really quick story to try and make this more relatable and bring it into the real world. A few years ago, I worked with a young lad. He was about 9 years old. He was a really lovely kid, polite and quiet, but he was terrified of failure. He wouldn't speak up in class, and he wouldn't try anything new at the academy. He would cry if he didn't get something right immediately. And what I noticed was his parents were doing their absolute best to help him, but they'd been protecting him from everything, from any struggle, any risk, any fall, every scrape. Now, they thought they were helping, but in reality, they were robbing him of strength. So we changed the approach. We put him in safe, controlled challenges. We searched for very small wins, tiny micro exposures, and we'd celebrate the effort, not the outcome. We'd say things like, "What did you do today that was hard?" Not, "Did you win?" And slowly, he started changing. He started trusting himself, not because someone told him he was really brave, but because he proved it to himself. He had evidence. One rep at a time, he had exposure and he had evidence, and he believed that was his new identity. Now, I'm not saying throw your child on the deep end and walk away. I'm saying introduce difficulty in micro doses. They need to feel micro fear, they need to feel micro failure. Let them learn that discomfort doesn't mean danger. That's the biggest misunderstanding I see in parenting today. We confuse pain with damage and trauma. But pain is often the beginning of growth for your child, for us as adults too. And here's what exposure can actually look like in real life when we leverage it. A physical challenge. Number one, a physical challenge. Let them get uncomfortable and train with them. It could be martial arts, hiking. It could be jumping in a cold river together. It could be sport. They need to feel their body under pressure and realize that pressure won't break them. They need evidence of that. Number two is emotional risk. Let them speak up for themselves, order their own food, apologize face to face. Teach them that their voice matters even when their voice is shaking. Number 3, social stretching. Let them join a new group, make a presentation, or even learn how to handle an awkward moment. Stop smoothing everything for them and let them grow edges. Number 4 is failure normalization. Try to celebrate attempts, not just results. Ask them, what did you try that didn't work this week? Then practice the attempt. What this will do is actually build internal permission to take risks with them. And number 5, hard conversations. Talk about real things with them, age specific. So as they get older, you can talk about death, mistakes, emotions. All of these things are really important because you're preparing them for adulthood. Don't hide real life. Guide them through it in an age-appropriate way with your mentoring, with your support. Now look, this doesn't mean chaos. That's not what I'm trying to create here. And what it doesn't mean is neglect. What it doesn't mean is trauma. It means stop shielding them from every bruise and start showing them how to heal.